Okay. Well, welcome. And I'm so excited for this. I thank you all for joining us. I know this is our day 2 of our conference. We'll do a quick check-in. How is everyone feeling so far about the conference? You can come off mute or leave leave a comment in the chat box, whatever works best for you. How are we feeling about the conference? I think we need some music. I know Amy, so we can play a little bit of music later too. But yes, Michelle, I'm feeling excited, and Amy feeling inspired. Awesome. And that's great. I'm glad to hear that. And we'll go to the next slide where we will do a quick introduction. Just introduce yourself, name, and where are you joining us from, and why did you choose to attend this workshop, and what is the one thing you hope to learn from today's workshop? I know, Amy, I've met you, but some of other people who are on here might not have met you. So Amy, do you want to do a quick introduction again?
Yes, thank you, Jocelyn. So my name is Amy, and I'm actually in South Carolina. I am hoping to really increase my competency on with the information from this session, because I don't think you can ever know enough, and I think what I do know is very limited. So I'm ready to learn.
Yes. And I am also ready to learn. Who else is ready to learn? I think that's the beauty of legislative advocacy and just this work in general. I feel like I'm always learning something new every day. There's always something to learn. And yes, we could never stop learning. So this is really exciting. And I see who else wants to introduce Michelle. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Michelle Burgess. I am based in Houston, Texas. I didn't get to join. We had a redistricting event several weeks ago, and I wasn't able to go to it, and I was really bummed. So I'm really excited that this is happening today. In Texas, redistricting is obviously, I think everywhere it's very important, but in Texas specifically, I have obviously some a stake in it. And I'm just curious to learn more about it, and also to figure out ways to hold legislators accountable in Texas to what they're doing in a process that seems pretty exclusive and maybe not as open and welcoming as perhaps it should be.
No, definitely. This is definitely an issue in a lot of states, and Texas included. And we'll talk about ways that we can make it more inclusive and more transparent. So definitely that. And I see that, my apology if I pronounce your name wrong, and feel free to correct me, Fikemi?
Yeah, you got it, Fikemi. So hi, I'm so sorry. I will be, out for a class in at the hour, but I've been trying to attend sessions in between classes and things like that. But yeah, my name is Fikemi. I'm from Lagos, Nigeria, but I currently school in Memphis, Tennessee at Rhodes College. I'm really attending this workshop because of how active my generation has been, especially within the past year, in politics and in our communities, and in righting the wrongs that have been normalized, I guess. And so I really want to just learn more practical ways that I could, I could not just involve myself, but educate myself on ways to make changes both in the US and back home in Nigeria.
I love that. I love that. And I'm assuming when you say your generation, I'm assuming that's generation.
Oh, right. Yeah, I'm 20. So
okay. I'm assuming it's Gen Z, because yes. Gen Z, in fact, I could not agree more. We're seeing this wave of activism and this generation more involved than ever. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm a millennial. Well, I'm like
you're on the border.
I'm on the board, literally, right in between Gen Z and millennial. But
we'll take you.
Thank you. Thank you. But yes, I could not agree more. Like Gen Z is going to be the one saving us. I truly believe that. And we're seeing that, right? Like whether it's through social media, through TikTok, Instagram, it's amazing. And I have so much to learn even myself. Like I don't like it's phenomenal. So thank you. I could not agree more. Gen Z will be the generation that will right the wrong. So thank you for being here. And with that, I'll introduce myself real quick. I am Tulia, if you could go to the next slide. My name is Jocelyn Yao. For those who don't know me, I'm the policy manager for Ignite National. I actually started joining Ignite when I was a student at UC Berkeley. I was still in undergrad, but I wanted to run for office. I was only 20 years old back then, so nobody really took me seriously. I was told that I was too young. I was told that my family is not in politics. I won't be able to raise money. Only one person took me seriously and actually mentored me and took me in. And that person was Sarah. And so she is currently the executive director for Ignite. So I'm so thankful for this. And here I am serving as the policy manager for Ignite. And next slide, you'll learn more about Anna. I'll let her introduce herself.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'll introduce myself, and then I noticed Carol, if you want to introduce yourself, I do have a bio slide for you later, and then Tulia, haven't heard from you either. But like Jocelyn said, my name is Ana del Castillo, and I currently serve as the Boston Fellow. Although this week I'm calling in from Colorado because I'm visiting a friend and her family here, so it's been really lovely. And what brought me to this workshop and to this work is that gerrymandering is something that I just never really knew about. It was something that I was like, oh, okay, like I know it's bad, but I don't really quite know how detrimental it is. And with 2020 being a census year, I think that redistricting is kind of on the forefront of everyone's minds. And so that is why I think it's so important that we're talking about this today and that we continue to share these lessons with our communities, because 2021 is a redistricting year, and it's time that we start talking about it. Carol, do you want to briefly introduce yourself? Yeah.
Sure. So I'm Carol Cunningham. I am not Gen Z or Gen X or Gen Y. I am a child of the 60s and did not ever think about politics I did think about it a lot in the 60s and then went to sleep for about 40 years. And more recently realized there's a lot going on, and the only way to change it is to really understand structures. So I'll be talking about that. I'm in Pennsylvania, a very, very gerrymandered state. So we can talk a little bit about that. But I'm invited by Anna to come and talk with you, and I'm looking forward to doing that.
Thank you, Carol, for joining us. And also Tulia, if you have been in other session, I have briefly introduced her, but Tulia, if you want to come off mute and just introduce yourself real quick, feel free to do so as well.
Yeah, hi, I'm Tulia, and I'm the Legislative Advocacy Intern at Ignite National, and I'm also the President of Ignite at SDSU.
Thank you, Tulia. And she's been with us for almost a year now, and she's phenomenal. Everything you see on our website when it comes to digital advocacy, she is the one helping us setting everything up. So thank you, Tulia. And with that, so now I'll talk a little bit about what gerrymandering is. I know this is something that Amy brought up earlier, but right before that, we'll talk about redistricting. This is the year of redistricting. We just completed our census count, which happens every 10 years. And so with that data that was gathered in 2020, we'll be redrawing our districts, and that includes everything. We'll be redrawing our congressional districts, we'll be redrawing our state legislators district, we'll be redrawing our city council district, we'll be redrawing our school board, basically everything from top all the way from congressional districts to all the way to down to local levels. And so we will be redrawing everything. And this is why we now more than ever, this is the time. 2021 is the year of redistricting. And it is so crucial that we mobilize our community and make sure that our voices are being heard and that we actually draw a map that is fair and representative and that actually represent our voice and our community. And how we draw. And I have a 10-month-old baby, and I just realized 10 years is a long time, y'all. How we draw that map today will basically affect how he grows, how he's going to grow up. And that just putting things in perspective. I mean, before becoming a mom, it didn't occur to me that, wow, 10 years, okay, like, I mean, I'm just going to be, from 25 to 35. But when I think about, and from a child's perspective, that's actually more than half of his childhood. So how we draw this map this year, it's going to affect the whole generation. And that's my motivation. And so we need a fair map and fair representation. And we go to the next slide. So what is gerrymandering? This is what Amy was asking earlier. This is how you can steal an election and draw the map according to your voters and how you want it. So these three images. So you have the first one is, how it is as it is. So you have 60% blue and 40% red. But this is how you can steal an election. The blue party could draw the map in a way that it turns the whole city or the whole congressional districts into only blue districts. The other way is that, red could also draw in a funky way to make sure that every district is being represented by the red. So and this could happen by, anyone could do this, and either the blue party or the red party, it doesn't matter. And in fact, classic example is here in California, the Democratic Party was able to draw the district in favor of them. And so because of that, if you look at California, if you look at the state legislators, it's controlled by both chambers are controlled by the Democratic Party, even though if you actually look at the demographic and look at the districts and look at how, and California is huge for those who have never been to California. If you look at many areas, even where Tulia is, San Diego, certain parts of San Diego is actually heavily Republicans. Where I live, it's actually heavily Republican. Central Valley is heavily Republicans. But then because of the way they draw it, if you look at the representation, it's actually, it's controlled by Democrats. And versus, other states like Texas, we talk about this, Michelle mentioned this earlier, or like other states, the Republican Party was able to draw the map in favor of them. So this happens with both parties. This is not just a one-party thing. This actually happens with both parties. And this is where gerrymandering in a nutshell is when politicians pick their voters instead of voters picking their elected officials, and it impacts community across the nation. Amy, does the picture help a little bit?
Yes, thank you. The pictures really help. And I'm wondering, how are the districts redrawn? And also, what does it mean that the politicians pick their voters?
Yeah, so the pods here, go to the next slide, Tulia.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so this is an expansion of the images from earlier. So this is the first two. It's when politicians draw it according to how they want it. But how it should be, it's when you have fair representation. And then if you go to the next, and Amy, I'm happy to send you the slides so that you have all of this. But when we think about this, how do we make sure that we are actually equally representing everyone and making sure that everyone's voices is being heard? So if you go to the next slide, Tulia. This is where we want to talk about the alternative solutions. And this is what Michelle was touching upon earlier. So there are other solutions that we are proposing. First, we can ask for independent redistricting commissions. And that, I'm in California, I'll use that as an example. That's something that we're doing here in California. So for this year, instead of having politicians draw the line, we're actually, we actually establish an independent commission where citizens of the states are the ones serving on the commission. And we make sure that we have representation. We make sure that people from all communities are serving on that commission. We make sure that people of all ages, people of all races, people of different locations throughout California are serving on those commissions. So that is a great solution. And in theory, it should eliminate any partisan or political influence on the process. The second one is community mapping process. And the community mapping process, it's kind of like a town hall styles where members of a community can create their own maps and then you vote on them. We actually did that in my city, in the city of Eastville. We did community mapping process where we had several town halls. I can't even remember, maybe like almost 10 town halls where we talked with our residents, and we came up with a map that most people agreed upon, and we voted on that. So the community mapping process works really well as well, especially if you are from a relatively smaller town. My city, we have 75,000 people, so it was still doable. The third one is to expand the existing commission to not only include elected officials, but also diverse perspectives of residents, such as students and working class people. And this is where we're gonna talk about S1 for the People Act of 2021. So HR1, S1, they're the same bill. For those who you might be a little bit confused. So why is it that there's two bills? HR1 is basically the House version and the S1 it's the Senate version, but they are the same bill. So HR1 passed the House recently, and now S1 is pending in the Senate. We need 60 votes, which means that we need bipartisan support. And S1 would curb extreme partisan gerrymandering by ensuring that states draw congressional districts using independent redistricting commissions. And then also they will have fair redistricting criteria and also mandate greater transparency. And we have this set up on our website where any one of you could log on and actually take action. So you could text Ignite the Capital to 25994, or you visit our website, which is in the chat box. And there's a pre-populated email, there's a pre-populated tweet that you could send to your legislators. And then also there's a phone bank script that you could use to call your legislators in support of S1. So with that, and you can do that throughout this conference or right now as you're watching the video. But in the meantime, I will let Anna take over and she will show you all this video.
Yes, perfect. I am just dropping in the chat box the link if you want to go ahead and while you're watching this video, advocate for S1. But the video that I'm about to show you is just a preview for a film that's called Slay the Dragon, and it's on Hulu. And you'll see kind of this amazing person named Katie Fahey, who's actually worked with Ignite in the past to talk about redistricting. But it shows kind of like, this movie talks about her grassroots activism to call for fair districts. So with that, let's watch the preview. Oh, I think you have to unmute so we can hear the audio.
I did unmute. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can't hear the video audio.
Weird.
Let me, Tulia, I can do it because
okay.
Yeah, let me do that right now. Share screen. Okay. Okay. Can y'all hear me? Okay, perfect.
As important as 2008 was, 2010 is to be a more important election. 2010 is a census year, and we redistrict every state and congressional seat following the census.
You win state legislature in 2010, you get to draw the new maps that control all the elections over the next decade.
The winner is pre-decided just by the way that the districts are drawn.
Even under the scenario of the Democrats winning the vote by the biggest margin they've ever won in modern Wisconsin history, the Republicans would still get 59 seats minimum. That's an astonishing manipulation of democracy.
Congress would never fix this problem because they have one interest only, and this is to stay in power.
It's the biggest heist in modern American political history.
I'm Katie Fahey. I'm with an organization called Voters Not Politicians. We started from a Facebook post. I saw that there was a pent-up energy, so I just thought I'd, try.
First there was 10,000, then there was 20,000, and this thing just sparked.
We're working with the anti-gerrymandering drive.
They're absolutely worried about us. They know that once this gets on the ballot, it almost always passes.
This is going to be the battlefield moving forward. If they lose, it's no holds barred.
There will be a vicious fight by the people who are in power.
We are seeing efforts to undermine the very core values of American democracy.
This may be the last time we have an opportunity to do something about partisan gerrymandering.
The people of our country are sick of this, and if we don't come and say that enough is enough, then nothing's going to change.
Awesome. So that's just a small preview of the film, and the link, you can use it to watch it. But it looks amazing. I still haven't seen it, so I can't wait to watch the entire thing. And now I have the great honor and privilege of introducing Carol, who will be doing a fireside chat today to talk about her work really tackling gerrymandering and calling for fair districts in Pennsylvania. So I'm just going to read Carol's bio. Carol Cunningham is a co-founder and chair of Fair Districts Pennsylvania, a nonpartisan all-volunteer coalition working on redistricting reform in Pennsylvania. In that role, she has spoken to audiences all over the Commonwealth, encouraging civic engagement and redistricting reform. She is also vice president of government and social policy on the state board of the League of Women Voters of Pennsylvania. She received a PhD in American literature from the University of Pennsylvania, taught literature and writing at the college level, and served for over 4 decades as a director of ministry to youth and their families at the Church of the Good Samaritan in Paoli. I hope I said that correctly. She and her husband, Whitney, live in Exton, Pennsylvania. So Carol, thank you so much, and let's give her a round of applause.
Thank you for having me. I have to say, I was not a youth pastor for 4 decades. It was 11 years. Something got mixed up in that. So if it was 4 decades, I would be a little older than I am now, which is old enough. So just to say, so thank you for having me. And Paoli is the way you say it, but everybody says it wrong, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, great. As I was reading that, I was like, 4 decades. I was like, that doesn't match her other information. So for over a decade.
Over a decade, that's it, yeah.
Yeah. And so, Carol, I guess the first question I have for you is, what inspired you to begin this advocacy work for fair district lines? If there was a moment or a story or an experience that kind of called you to this work.
Yeah, I've had a kind of different career. I've gone from one thing to another, and I was a youth pastor for 11 years. And I worked with a church in a pretty affluent area, but we had a partner parish in one of the poorest communities in Pennsylvania. And I was really surprised to find that the kids in the poor community had very large classes, didn't have aides, didn't have school therapists, didn't have a school library. And the kids in the affluent communities had lots of counselors and lots of librarians and everything you could think of. And I thought, that's really a dumb way to do it, because the kids who need more help are getting less help. And so I started trying to understand that. And the more I tried to understand, the more I realized it had a lot to do with state politics. And I had never, ever paid attention to state politics, but I thought, if I want the kids I work with to actually have libraries, I need to figure this out. So I got involved with the League of Women Voters, who understood what was going on, but they didn't really have much of a plan to change it. And I started asking people, what would be the most impactful thing we could do to change what happens in our state legislature? And people would say, oh, gerrymandering. And I would say, I don't even know what that word means. I really had never heard the word. And then I was invited to, became the vice president for government and social policy for the League of Women Voters, but still had never heard, I still didn't know what gerrymandering was, which is really embarrassing to admit. I did not know what gerrymandering was. I was invited to a meeting in a senator's office, and she was working on a bill to create an independent redistricting commission. And I said, I have a lot to learn. And as soon as I started trying to learn that, I realized, oh my goodness, this is why we can't get anything done. We can't fix school funding. We can't fix environmental stuff. We can't get good gun laws. There were so many, we have a huge shale gas industry. There's no control over the fracking. It does huge damage to our environment. And everything that I cared about, I realized it's all being decided in this building by these people who don't answer to anybody because of gerrymandering. Because they all are in safe districts, they collect their paychecks, they go home, they do nothing, they accomplish nothing. And there are some folks there who would like to accomplish something, but they have no say at all. Less than 7% of the bills introduced in our state legislature each session get passed. Only 25% even get considered in committee. And there's nothing that voters can do to change that. So I said, we do need to fix this. And to fix it, I realized it's going to take a lot of work, and it's got to take a lot of focus, and it's going to take a lot of civic education. So that's what we really focused on, helping people understand. As of now, we've had over 1,000 public meetings attended by over 42,000 people in college campuses and churches and libraries and town halls and anywhere you can think of. We've got a huge speakers bureau, volunteers, all volunteer speakers bureau that just, and wherever we speak, there are people who say, oh, once I understand this, I have to do something, don't I? And we say, yeah, once you understand it, you have to do something. And we keep giving people things to do, and our volunteer crew keeps growing. So that's how we got started.
Wow, that's so amazing. And I'm putting in the chat box right now the website for Carol's organization, if you just want to check it out, Fair Districts, Pennsylvania. But can you talk a little bit about the process of co-founding that, and tell us a little bit more about the mission and a little bit about what you all do?
Yeah, so I started it. It started out to be a coalition of organizations. And that was, organizations saying, yeah, we had a meeting and agreed on some principles, which was to have an independent commission. That was kind of if you look around on that website, you'll find the About Us page, and there are some, founding principles there. And we got some organizations to endorse it. But that not much happened until I was at a meeting. I think one of the very first speaking things I did was a panel, and there was a legislator there who had a bill back in 2008, a redistricting reform bill back in 2008. And after the panel, he came over and he said, the only thing that will change anything is if there's advocacy in every single district. So the difference between Pennsylvania and Michigan, where that trailer happened, where the Voters Not Politicians were so successful, Michigan has citizen initiative. So some states, you get enough signatures on petitions and you can get a bill on a ballot. You don't have to go through the legislators. Other states, the only way to change things is to go through the legislators. And we're one of those states. Pennsylvania is one of the states. You can't change anything unless you get the legislators to pass it twice. It's got to go through 2 consecutive sessions of the legislature. So the only way you can change that is in-person advocacy. And this representative basically said, I had a bill back in 2008 that had more co-sponsors than any other bill. And the committee chair where the bill was refused to give it a vote, and it never got a vote in committee, never got out of committee. He said, the only way you're going to change this, if you've got to get more co-sponsors than that, you've got to get more noise than that, you've got to get more grassroots energy than that. So we've been working on that ever since. And actually this month, we're just finishing our biggest effort yet, which we are calling March Towards Transparency, to have in-person, Zoom meetings with constituents and every single legislator in the state. So as of today, we have asked every legislator in the state for a meeting. Not all have agreed to meetings. The responses are funny. One said, I'm not interested, to his constituents. One said, I'm looking at this from both sides, so I don't really need to meet with you. It's like, That's ridiculous. Some simply ignore us, but many, many, many have agreed to meetings, and we've had a lot of meetings and have a lot more scheduled. So our goal is just to be as loud as we can, and we are seeing they are changing some things. I should jump to one of the things that Jocelyn said was she talked about some possible changes, which is an independent commission or expanding the commission. We can't change the who without changing our constitution, our state constitution, and our legislators are not doing that, and we've run out of time. So we have a bill right now that would change the how and the what, that would put some really strong transparency requirements on the process, that would require that they accept maps from citizens, and that it would require they explain when they just divide a municipality or divide a county, and that would allow for testing of the maps through some generally accepted principles like compactness, responsiveness, non-bias. So it puts a lot more guardrails and boundaries on it. And we're simply telling the legislators, okay, you get to draw the maps, but you need to change the rules. And they seem to be acting like, oh, we don't need better rules. We'll just do it right this time. So they've actually built a better website. They're putting a lot more data on the website. They've invited, there's a 5-person commission. They're inviting applications for the fifth person on the commission. Will they actually choose one of those people? We don't know, but there's little signs that they know we're watching. So even if we don't get a bill passed, we will definitely have better maps because we are watching.
That's awesome. And that really speaks to, I know a lot of young people have been like, okay, well, if redistricting is happening in the next couple of months and the districts will impact the next decade, it is a little disappointing that, we can't change the people who are doing it. That's kind of determined. But I think this approach of then introducing bills that are like, okay, y'all are doing it, but here are some provisions to doing it. So that's really, really smart. And what is that bill called in Pennsylvania?
We call it LACRA, the Legislative and Congressional Redistricting Act. We also call it the Transparency Bill, and it's House Bill 22, Senate Bill 222. And we've had experts around the country look at it and evaluate it and say, yeah, this would change a ton. And we have some other states that are copying LACRA, which is terrific because if we can't change the who, we absolutely have to have better rules in place.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing. I just wrote it down because I was like, I hope this becomes a model that other states pick up. So that's really great. Well, I'm going to ask one more question, and then I want to leave time for anyone here to ask questions because, Carol, I could talk to you all day about redistricting. But so you've spoken a lot about what Fair Districts Pennsylvania is doing. For someone who is watching the future recording or here today, who maybe like lives in a state and has no idea what efforts are being done in that state to call for fair districts, what are some pieces of advice that we can do to start pushing for fair districts in our own states?
A couple of things you can do. One is Princeton Gerrymandering Project has a really good website where they have a map where you can look at they ran a lot of tests on state maps for congressional districts and state legislative districts. So you can look at the Princeton Gerrymandering, just Google Princeton Gerrymandering Project, or I'll find there it is. And let's put the link in there. So if you just go to their homepage, you can see maps and you can just see, is this a problem in my state? Pennsylvania had among the worst congressional maps. So we had a lawsuit in 2018 and won. So now our congressional maps are not among the worst, but our state House and Senate maps are still among the 5 or 6 worst in the country. So you start there, and then they have state pages. So look for your state. You could just click on the state and then a little box comes up and then you can click on that box and then you can see what's happening in your state. So if you go to Pennsylvania and click on that, you can actually get information about the bill, LACRA, that I described. You can find organizations in the state. And that's what I would do, is look for organizations in your state that are working on this. And that's one piece. Another piece is that House Resolution 1, Senate 1. If that passes, that changes a lot about the congressional redistricting. Another thing we haven't talked about is prison gerrymandering, and that's a whole nother topic, but the Census Bureau counts incarcerated people where they're incarcerated, which in Pennsylvania is in rural communities. So you're taking people from urban places, you're counting them in rural places, you're giving electoral power to the rural places and stealing electoral power from the urban places. House Resolution 1, S1, would make that would just say it's not allowed anymore. So that would be a big change. So there's some really important stuff in that bill. One thing I would say about advocacy is the more personal your advocacy is, the more effective it is. So in-person meetings with your state legislators to just, say, I looked at the map and I think this is outrageous and it needs to change. Or to say, I'm really concerned about this issue. And when I tried to understand why we can't fix it, I realized we have really bad gerrymandering. The more personal you are, the better. And I had a meeting this morning with some organizations who met with my US senator, one of my US senators, to talk about S1. One of our senators supports S1, one of them does not. And we were asking the one who does, what are the best things that we can do to talk to senators about this? Because that's who we need to be talking about. And they said, if you're going to send an email, because sending a letter gets stuck in all sorts of security problems, but send a personal email. And actually, you can't send an email. You have to put it in that contact form that all of our senators have on the congressional page. But the advice was the more you customize it, the more likely it is to be read, because they have these bot things that check if the language lines up with other language. It just all gets counted as the same thing. And it's like, oh, it's a form email. Even if you change the beginning and the end, if all the rest of it lines up, they just count it as, it's a form letter. And so the ones that actually get read and get considered and thought about are the personal ones where you take the talking points that are shared on whatever website you are, but you put them in your own words, your own thoughts, and you say, as your constituent here in Pennsylvania, I am really alarmed at this and I really want you to fix this. And the more personal you can be in your emails, in your phone calls, and in your meetings, the more effective you'll be.
That's awesome. I love that line. The more personal, the more impactful. I see that Amy has a question. So Amy, do you want to come off mute and you can ask it? We can do open floor now.
Yes, thank you, Anna. Carol, I wondered, how has the new presidential administration impacted your advocacy efforts, and in what ways, or how does it compare to the last administration?
Well, in Pennsylvania, I don't know if you know that, but Pennsylvania probably had more lawsuits around the most recent election of any other state. We had a huge number of lawsuits. We probably had the most people arrested for being in the insurrection in the Capitol of any other state. So in Pennsylvania, we are in the middle of a very, very toxic, very partisan, very hostile legislative environment. So it actually has not been super helpful for us here in Pennsylvania, just because the legislature is, the committee chairs are being constantly hammered by people saying, the election was a fraud, you've got to fix it. It's very, very partisan. So for us right now, it makes it difficult to get anything real done, although it does make it possible for us to say to those moderates who actually want to get something done, you have got to end this partisanship. The partisanship is destroying us. It's destroying our state. And the only way to fix it is fix gerrymandering. Is probably the fastest, easiest, best, most appropriate way to step back from the brink. So we're in a pretty toxic place in Pennsylvania, but I have to say, there's hopeful signs in other places that, important things will get done. So nationally, it's a hopeful thing. Here in Pennsylvania, it's been really difficult.
Thank you, Carol.
Are there other questions? Oh, Michelle, yeah.
I'm just curious. Sorry, I keep looking over here. That's where I have y'all on the screen, and I feel like I need to look this way. But I'm curious, what the chances are that this passes in the Senate, because I feel like, having the support of 60, we haven't seen a lot of bipartisan bills being passed right now. So just curious to know what your thoughts are on that. And yeah.
I don't have a crystal ball that tells me what's going to happen in the Senate. And will the Senate end the filibuster? That's a big one. Will they end the filibuster? That would change a lot. I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. Are there pieces of the bill? I think part of the groups that I was with meeting with our senator this morning, one of our messages was don't splinter out the bill, keep it all as one bill. But would some of it get passed if they did splinter it out? And, will they hit a point where they say, you know what, we're not going to get this through. We really need to do that. I don't know. I will say, I do think, so I didn't talk a lot about the lawsuit that we had here in Pennsylvania. It was the first litigation on partisan gerrymandering that actually won a new map. And it made a big difference. Before that, we had 13 Republicans and 5 Democrats. We were the poster child for that 2010 Red Map project. We had locked in, didn't matter if the Democrats had more votes, a lot more votes, less votes, 13-5 every time. So this lawsuit actually addressed the state constitution rather than the federal constitution, which is why it didn't go to the Supreme Court, which is why it actually stuck when the state court said, this is unlawful, and insisted on a new map. The new map gave us 9-9 instead of 13-5. And that still is a little bit, I mean, so the Democrats can get a slight majority, but they get 9 seats out of 18, which is a huge change from 13-5. And for the first time ever, we have 4 women in Congress. Before that, we had 0 women in Congress. So big change. To me, that's really hopeful. And there are states around the country who are looking at their state constitution saying, oh yeah, we got some good stuff here. Free and equal elections, our state constitution mentions free and equal elections, and our state constitution was the model for many constitutions around the country. And that free and equal election provision is in many constitutions. So I know there are states looking at litigation. I know there are states, a big piece of this is just having so much public attention that we shame them into drawing better maps. And I had a legislator tell me last week, he hasn't supported our bills. He's not sure he will, but he said, when you call a district goofy kicking Donald Duck, which is what one of our districts was called, he said, that is a little embarrassing. You're probably not going to see any more goofy kicking Donald Ducks in Pennsylvania, which is good. So we might have some gerrymandering. It will not be as bad as what we've had because of so much public attention.
Can I just ask one more follow-up question and then I'll be done? For the state senator that, or sorry, for the federal senator that does not support the bill, have they given like valid reasons for why?
No. But and I will say he is one of those who has occasionally stood up to his party a little bit, and also he's not running again, and also seems a little alarmed at the craziness going on in our state. So there are some senators, you asked about, could they get to 60? There are some Republican senators who have shown a hint of backbone and have shown a hint of concern for democracy. And if a few of them start talking, it's possible that they might make a change. And so I think we will certainly be targeting that senator here in Pennsylvania to say, you have a chance to do the right thing and you're not running again. And why don't you just help fix this? We'll see.
Awesome. Well, I definitely want to leave time for the call to action. So thank you so much, Carol. I always learn from you, and we so appreciate you sharing your time with us.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. Thank you all. I know great things will come from all of you. You're starting early. I started very late. So thank you for starting early on all of this. Take care.
Thank you. And with that being said, I do want to take this chance to show what we have on our website and how you can take action. And let me share screen real quick. So once you go onto our website on Advocate page, which the link is in the chat box, you can support the bill here, take action, where there's pre-populated emails, tweets, Facebook posts, and also phone bank script that you could use. But not only that, like Carol mentioned, right, especially depending on where you live, if you're in Texas or Pennsylvania, you also have to reach out to your state senators. And the way, whoops, how did I end up here? And you could also, well, it's actually very common. Don't sweat about it if you don't know who your state legislators are. Oh my goodness, it's Tuesday. You could look up your state legislators here on our website as well, where you click on directory right here, and you can find your elected officials. So for mine, I just put in my address and my zip code, and it will show me that my state elected officials are Senator Richard Rolfe and Assembly Member Sabrina Cervantes. I click on it and it will give me their phone numbers, their address, and all the information that I need to know about them. So this is the tool that we have on our website. Feel free to use that. Look up your state legislators and reach out to them about this issue, gerrymandering. And I cannot emphasize enough, this bill, this bill S1, and also just redistricting in general, it's the future of our democracy, and we can't afford to not do anything about it. And yes, we don't have crystal ball that will tell us if this will pass or what will happen next. But I do know one thing for sure: the quickest way to kill a bill, the quickest way to send a bill to nowhere, basically the quickest and the best way to kill a bill is apathy, is to do nothing. And we don't want that. So we want to make sure that people are aware of this bill. We want to put pressure on legislators. We want to make sure that people are reaching out to their legislators to raise awareness about this bill. And if I were to leave you all with a call to action, it will be this: reach out to at least 5 of your friends or family members, reach out to at least 5 people by the end of the day, and send them the link to our website and have them take action as well. So that's the one call to action that I'll leave you all with. And Anna, do you have anything that you want to add?
I think that was an awesome call to action. I would just say, like, doing things like watching the Slay the Dragon video, just anytime we can educate ourselves. Or y'all, I use YouTube all the time. Like, I'll just be like, what is gerrymandering? But I think that the self-education that we can do allows us to then, educate our family members or our best friends. So just +1 to everything Jocelyn said.
Yeah. Well, thank you all again for joining us. And with that being said, there apparently, I think there's a survey link that you fill out after each breakout session. You should have that. So feel free to take the time to fill out the survey and let us know how it went. And thank you all again for joining us. And if you feel compelled to do so, let us know how you're feeling. Just leave one word in the chat box. How do you feel about the workshop? How are you feeling? Let us know. I love it. Energized, empowered, awesome, Amy. And I hope we answer your question about what gerrymandering is. Encourage. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you all for joining us again. And I hope to see you at some other breakout session.
Thank you, Jocelyn.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Michelle.
Going back to my I'm in the help desk, so I'll go sit in the help desk by myself.
It's so fun how I feel like we're actually in different rooms. Like, I'm like, it's great. Well, yeah, thank you so much, Jocelyn. I've enjoyed all your sessions.
I appreciate your help. Thank you.
All right, bye.
Oh no, Deshani, you can't. We already ended. We just ended right before.
It's okay. No worries. Just wanted to make sure.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, bye.
Bye.